Cesar Gracie weighing in on his student, Nate Diaz, as Nate's getting ready for Chimaev. And Cesar, of course, was very confident. And he broke the fight down to two categories: stand-up, ground. He favored Nate in both. Now, sure, that doesn't surprise you, and we don't need to go in the back and forth to, is he right? It was an interesting comment for me because I only have two critiques of Nate Diaz in his entire career. Two critiques if Nate was, hey, Chael, what do you see? I know you watched my fight. You see anything there? I can only say two things. And the first is that I believe Nate breaks a fight down the way that his trainer just stated it, which is stand up and ground. But I don't agree with that. And neither do the judges. And neither do the unified rules. And neither does history. The most important part of the fight is the in-between. When you go to the ground, was it your choice and are you on top? That is how decisions are based. Every decision in UFC history, save one. One time, a guy was on bottom against his will and won. It was Boss Rutten versus Kevin Randleman for the World Championship. That is the only exception that you will find. Now, I bring that to you because Nate does not agree. Neither does Nick. Based on this very brief statement by Cesar, I don't think Cesar agrees. I think those guys saying, hey, listen, I'm on bottom, but this is where I work. This is where I do my best work. Notice where my hips are. Notice what I'm blocking. Notice my strikes. Notice my attempts. Notice the effort that I'm doing. Those aren't terrible arguments. I'm just sharing with you that historically in MMA, they have not been rewarded. They are in other forms of combat that the Cesar Gracie team does compete in. So that would just be a critique. It would just be a critique of me to go, hey, I got to tell you what these judges are looking for. They're disagreeing with you about activity and skill once you get to the ground. They are favoring a top position. I would just suggest that. And my other critique to Nate. So Nate is known, and this won't catch you guys by surprise, as Mr. Cardio. 5 rounds is no problem. And I have personal experience with this. I have sparred with Nate, and I've sparred with guys 20 years, 25 years. I remember them all. Like, I would never misplace a guy or know not to say hello to him if I saw him 20 years later. If we sparred, I know who he is. But to remember the sparring session is different. To remember the guy or the fact that it happened is very different than remember the session. I remember my sparring session with Nate as though it was this morning. It was hard. And it was harder than I thought it would. He was 155 pounds. I was 205 pounds. It was one of these things. There was a pace. There was a way that he went. Plus, he would do what Clayton Hires calls punch a hole in your gas tank, which is he would slip outside and he would hit me in the body. It would be and all of a sudden you're not breathing as good. All of a sudden your cardio is going. It's just one of these things where this pace of Nate, as much as you guys believe in it, it is very real. He likes the later rounds, but my critique, that was a compliment. My critique is I do feel sometimes with the idea of getting to rounds 4 and 5, with the idea of revving up as he goes, that he starts slow. There was a fight that Nate had, I believe it is his single best performance. And not because of outcome. Guy could lose a fight and I could still, hey, that was the performance. That's what you need to do. But there was a performance that I think stands out above all for Nate. It was a 3-round fight, opposite of what he likes. He won all 3 rounds against a former world champion who once upon a time was on the cover of the Wheaties box, Anthony Pettis. I think Nate's single greatest performance, pushing the pace, staying on him, implementing his game plan. But what I loved about it that was different, he did it from the second that referee said go. He did not throw away a part of a round or an entire round. Or sometimes with Nate, about 7 minutes. Even if he wins the first round, he wasn't really trying to push the pace. He was feeling out. He was getting warmed up. And even partway through the second round, I've seen this. And I think for Nate to use that conditioning, use it early. And I don't know why he's a slow starter. I'm just observing that I feel he starts slower than he needs to, because I do feel it's his choice. I feel he is purposely, by strategy, keeping it down just a little bit. He did not do that with Anthony Pettis. He was as dominant in the first round as he was in the last round. Generally, in a Nate fight, his last round is his best round. It was one of these weird exceptions. And if he could look inside himself, he could find why. And it'd be an answer guy. It'd be a real simple one. He made a decision. He was nervous. It came out of respect. It came out of fear. He didn't want to waste any time. It could also be as simple as the way that he warmed up at the back. I had many teammates over the years in the sport of wrestling that started slow in the first round. We had 3 rounds too. They were only 2 minutes. It's a much shorter situation, but all the same, that would come on later. All the rest of us would come to the gym and we'd warm up on our own. Roll your shoulders, maybe grab a partner, maybe you move, do whatever you want for your warm-up. Coach Pittman would take these slow starters outside in their running. He'd run them 5 miles. He'd run them 5 miles at 9 a.m. before the tournament started. Because they would use some of those first rounds to get going, to find their second wind, to get warmed up. So there were some tricks that you could do. And I don't know if that's the situation with Nate, but I do feel that my observation is very fair. I do think that he starts slow on purpose. But I will also tell you he has the ability to not, because it's exactly what he did with Anthony Pettis for 15 straight minutes. So it's one of these spots where the first thing Nate has to do is not beat Chimaev. Chimaev is just an X. That's a name you guys are focused on. Nate is not, believe me. Nate's first thing will be to get himself in shape. His second thing will be get himself to weight. His third thing will be report to the arena. His fifth thing will be get his hands wrapped. His sixth thing will be to warm up. His seventh thing will be okay, but it's all about performance, right? With the great guys, it's not the outcome, it's the performance. Then they understand it's a 2-man sport, and this guy's going to do his thing. At the end of the night, we're going to have to live with the result and walk away. But I'm sharing, before you get into the X's and O's of how that fight is going to go, that's not where Nate's at. Nate's just in the preparation of it. And he wants to go out there and he wants to perform well. And I've had these talks with Nate to some degree about, hey, here's what the judges are looking for. No matter how good you feel on your back, perception, for reasons that are bigger than Nate and I. This isn't Nate and I or you. We don't get to weigh in on this. The rules are the rules. The officials and the history, I'm just making an observation. And once they go to it's that in-between that matters. It's that in-between that's winning the fight. You want to be a better stand-up fighter than a guy? Let's say you're right. Great. That is very relevant if you keep the fight standing up. It's very relevant to that. But when you start talking about who's better on the ground, there's just nowhere within the bylaws that have anything to do with that. One guy could look like a black belt and one guy could look like a white belt. It never once says skills or appearance of skills. It does not say submission attempts. Nowhere in there. I know you hear that. I know commentators love to tell you that. You will not find that. You will find a word, damage. That is the word you're going to find. Underneath damage, you're going to find another word called control. And you're just not going to convince somebody that you're controlling from your back. You're just not. So I think they're very interesting comments. I'll be curious if you guys agree with me. I'll be curious if you've made those same observations. And Nick would go into that same school. Nick really does believe that he should be winning fights when he is more comfortable on his back, when he's looking for things, when he's shutting opponents down. And there's certain sports of combat where that is accurate. I'm just voicing. It's not how the MMA judges look at it. And Nate's, the way we're going to judge him isn't going to be outcome. It's going to be the way that he performs. And if Nate went in there with a strategy, I'm starting right now. That ref says go, I'm going. No, we'll see you in the second round. No, I'll catch you later tonight. Right now. Which he has the ability to do. And if he respects the in-between of the position when they go to the ground, I really think his performance is going to be viewed very positively